Welcome to another session in our AI in 30 Minutes series. And this one is about building your own AI expert using Gemini Gems. Let me introduce myself. I'm Debbie Beaudry, the Director of Academic Technology. I'm with the Digital Futures Institute, which is a department here at Teachers College and part of Columbia University. Ernest?
Hi, my name's Ernest Chan. I'm the Senior Educational Technologist of DFI.
Thank you, Ernest. Ernest will be checking the chat and the Q&As for us. So a little bit of housekeeping. This is a webinar format. If you have something you'd like to share with others, you can feel free to enter that in the chat. If you have questions for me or Ernest, please put them in the Q&A. I'll probably wait till the end to answer questions. We are recording this session, and so the recording and slides will be sent to everyone. It usually takes a couple days for us to edit, and get captions in and all, so probably early next week you'll get that. And if you want captions, you can turn them on by clicking the Show Captions icon on the toolbar. All right, so what is on our agenda? First of all, we're going to talk about what is Google's Gemini. I know some of you already know that, but in order to create a gem, you need to use Gemini. Then we'll look at what is a gem, why would you create a gem, how to create a gem, and how to share a gem. So let's start with the easy. What's Google Gemini? That's Google's AI tool. So it's like ChatGPT, Claude, others that you have probably been using or heard about. You can use it to create text, images, video, and data analysis and more. So right now, if you use your TC account and you're a faculty member or a staff member, you have access to TC's Google Gemini. In January, then students will be able to have access to it as well. So you could use Gemini if you have a personal Gmail account, you can use Gemini that way, or you can access it through your TC account. There's also lots of other large language models out there. So why would you use TC's Gemini? First of all, it's free to you. Second, the information that you enter into TC's Gemini is not used to train Google's AI model. So a lot of these models, whatever you're entering for information, it's using it to train their model. TC Gemini is covered under the terms of service that we have in place for Google. So any information that you enter is not going to be shared with third parties or anything like that. It's protected by the agreement we have with Google. And since TC Gemini is supported by TCIT, if you have any questions or if you need help troubleshooting, you can open up a ticket and TCIT can help you with that. So I'm just going to give you a real quick demo of Gemini just so you know how to access it through your TC account, and then we'll move on to Gems. So I'm getting out of my presentation and I am just going to go to Google. I'm logged in with my TC account, and if I click the Google Apps icon, the little hamburger it looks like here, I'm going to click on, when I go to all the apps that are here, we have the Gemini Sparkle, they call it. So I will click on that, and that starts Gemini for me. So it's like ChatGPT, Claude. Like I said, if you've used it before, I can enter my prompt. Let's say, this is my standby that I use all the time. Create a lesson plan for 5th graders about the water cycle. Now, there are 2 versions of this. There's the Pro and the Flash. The Pro takes longer, but you get better results. Just as we're going through this, I'm going to use the Flash for most of it so that we can get through more content. So I'm moving to the Flash mode. I'm going to click Submit, and it will come up with a lesson plan for me here. Tells me how long it is, the age, the lesson, how long each piece is, how to engage them, how to explore, explain, and then some extension activities. So I can just put this in a Google Doc, it's here, and use it if I want, or I could go back and say, change this to a 90-minute plan, or make this 45 minutes, and it would alter it that way. So that is basically using Gemini. And like I said, you can use it to create images. So you can ask it, create an image of college students using laptops in the library, and it will create images as well. All right, so we demoed that. So what is the difference? What is a Google Gem then? So we use Gemini there, and it's like a chat bot, but a gem is something a little bit different. That's a customized AI assistant you create with Google's Gemini. So it's a custom GPT, a custom chat bot. These are words that are thrown around, and it depends on the platform that you're using. If you're ChatGPT, they call them custom GPTs. So they're all kind of the same idea. I'm going to share with you one that this is a gem that has already been created. Let's start with the end in mind here. So this was created by a gentleman, Eric Kurtz, who does a lot of writing about this and experimenting. So this is a gem to write a lesson plan. So I'm going to go to the gem, and I click here. He shared this, he's created this, and he shared it. So now I can just, I'm in the gem, and it tells me it's the lesson plan generator. It has its information about his company here. But I'm just going to say start to get it started. And it says I'm the lesson plan creator. And now it's going to ask me a bunch of questions. Can you tell me the standard, the topic, or the learning objective for this lesson? So I'm going to say the water cycle. Gives it a minute. Oh, classic essential science topic. So it says before I do that, what's the grade level? I would say 5th grade. Great, excellent. How long will it be? Let's say, I'm going to say 20 minutes. No. Fantastic. All right, so it wants to know more about the objective. Are we identifying the main stages, explain the sun's energy, whatever? I'm going to say A. We're just starting with the basics here. Got it. So, what prior knowledge? What did they already know about this? Well, we've learned about the states of matter, solid, liquid, gas kind of thing. They already know that. We'll say that. Any required materials? No. Nothing. All right, so now it comes up with the lesson plan and exported to sheets, and it has all of the information. It's a little bit more detailed than what we got before. And then it's asking which, do you want to make any changes, any refinements to this? So I could have typed the whole prompt in myself, which I did at the beginning. Or you can use a gem like this where it asks you questions in case you forget to say, oh, it's 90 minutes. Oh, it's 5th graders. So this will step you through it. So say, oh, how does that happen? And we'll take a look at that in 1 minute. But first, I want to talk about why would you make a gem? Why don't I just type it in Gemini straight, as opposed to going through making a gem? Well, if you have a prompt that you use repeatedly, you're always typing the same thing in over and over again, then a gem saves you from having to type the prompt in. So it's an easier way for that, saves you maybe some time. Also, if you want Gemini's response to be in a specific format or style, for example, we saw where it was asking us questions, it was prompting us. If you want the format, if I wanted the format of the lesson plan to look differently, I could have put that in there. Also, if I want Gemini to use knowledge that I provide. So the gem that was created there is just using information that is already in the large language model that it got from the internet. But if I have something specific that I wanted to use, for example, I wanted to use the New York State science standards, then you can have the gem focus on that instead of just general knowledge that's out there. So how can you create a gem yourself? And I am going to show you that now. And we're going to do a super simple one just to start out so you can get the gist of how it works. So here are all of the prompts that I've put in Gemini before, but up at the top here is something you can see a section called Gems. And I am going to click Explore Gems. And at the very top are some gems that have already been pre-made by Google, just like the one that I showed you that was already pre-made about lesson planning. So for example, this one about Learning Coach, you can ask it about a topic and it will coach you through learning it as opposed to just spitting out all the answers for you. So if you want to learn about binary numbers, if I just put it in Google, it would tell me everything there's to know about binary numbers. But if I use the Learning Coach, just like we saw with the lesson plan, it's going to prompt me and say, what do you want to know about binary numbers? What do you already know? And then it's going to give me information in chunks, in bits of pieces of information. It might offer to quiz me. So it's more robust than what you just get, an information dump that you would just get in Gemini. So let's say I want to create my own gem. So I'm going to go down to the bottom. Here are some that I've already created. This one was shared with me. So this is the one that I used that I saw for the lesson plan. So I'm going to go new gem. And something that I really do all the time in my work is I use Gemini to help me write my emails, like to improve on them. So I'm going to give this a Gemini name. I'm going to call it the email improver. And then a description. We'll make emails clear and concise, because that sometimes I need some help with that, honestly. And so I'm going to give it the instructions. What do I want it to do? I will enter some email text and want you to respond with a version that is clear. Oops, spell it right. Clear and concise. There we go. So there's room for lots more of instructions, but we'll just start with that for now. And I'll click save. Okay, so I can start my chat with my email improver. So it tells me I'm in that gem, and I can see it up here on upper left-hand corner. Now I have a sample email. I made a fake email here. But it's kind of typical of the way I initially write, like too much information for people. I know they won't read all of this, so I'll go to my gem and I will say, improve this email. Type it all in, give it a minute, and then it comes up with a bulleted list that certainly much easier to read than my example of email, where lots of text and very dense. So this is something that I could just copy and paste it into my email. I could work with it and say, you know, make it a little longer, or change the tone, make it friendlier or something like that. But this has, if this is something I do often, I can just click, rather than having to type the prompt in again, I can click on the email improver, dump in my email text, and I'll get something back, a result back. So that's easy one to do. Talked about this. All right. So the one that we looked at before was much more sophisticated than what I just did. And if we look at any of the others that are provided by, pre-made by Google, they are also the same. But you can see the instructions. Now I just typed in like one sentence, make this email clear and concise. Well, something like the one we looked at for the lesson plan and the learning code, the instructions, there's a lot of instructions that go with them. And the way you can see them is you can make a copy of the gem There we go. And when you do, it says copy of lesson plan, then it shows me all of the instructions, whoever wrote that, all of the instructions that they put in so that it's interactive and what kind of questions is it asking you. It starts out with what is the role of the AI? AI is an expert teacher and master instructional designer. Here's the interaction flow. Hi, how can I help you? And then these were the questions that it asked me because the person who wrote this put these questions in there. What's the target content? What's the grade level, time constraint, key features, all of that. And then it specifies the format, what it should look like when it's output. And then at the end, ask if there are any changes that you would like made. So this is great, but this is a lot. You can see that you don't have to be a programmer, like you don't have to learn a programming language. It's all in text, in words, but it's still, that would be hard for me to come up with on my own to remember all of these pieces to it. So a nice way to do this, to come up with the instructions for a gem, you have an idea for a gem, is you can go to Gemini, back to just regular Gemini, to the chat bot, and I can ask it to create the instructions for me. So let's say I'm a student and I have a faculty member who says we can use AI, but only to correct grammar and spelling in our writing. We don't want it, they don't want us using it to change the tone or the sentence structure or anything like that. So I want to create a gem that just checks for spelling and grammar. So I'm going to tell Gemini what I want. So I will say, I need you to write instructions for a gem that will proofread some of my writing. I'll input my writing and I want it to identify only the spelling and grammar issues. I don't want it to make the corrections for me, which sometimes when you do that with just Gemini, it makes all the changes for you. So I just wanted to pick out the things that it has identified as a problem, and then and let me say which changes I would like made. Okay, so now this is in flash mode because this is a little bit more complex task. I'm going to switch into this reasoning, math, and code, the pro version, and it'll take a little bit longer, but you'll get better results for something like this, especially something you're going to be using over and over again. So now it's coming up and it is creating the instructions. So here we go. So we have all of the instructions, critical rules, don't rewrite, the correct output, all of this. So it would have taken me a very long time to come up with something like this on my own. So I'm just going to copy the instructions that it wrote. I'm going to go to Explore Gems. I'm already here. I'm going to click Create New Gem. And I am going to call this Proofreader. And then checks writing for spelling and grammar only. Okay, now I'm going to paste in those instructions that I just copied. There we go. And I am going to save it. And it says it's created, started. So now I'm in the proofreader. Now I have some sample text for need a fake lit review. And I'm just going to copy this text. Now I know this has some spelling mistakes in it. I purposely included that. So I am going to, I have too many tabs open here. There we go. I'm back to the proofreader. I'm going to say, proofread this. don't know, put in a text. And then comes back. And it comes up and it says, I spelled decades wrong, I spelled largely wrong, exposure, here's some grammar mistakes. And now let me know if you have another text you'd like me to proofread. Oh, well, this isn't, I really want it to ask me, like, to make the changes for me. So I would go back to Gemini. Let me just look at the time now here. I would go back to Gemini and ask it to change it. So I'm not going to go through all this because it's a very iterative process. You try it the first time, you use it like, oh, this isn't exactly what I want. Add to this a question about which changes it should make and have it make those changes. So those are the kinds of things, then it will rewrite it for me. And then I can go back and paste it in and try it again. So it definitely takes time on your part. So you need to be sure that this is something you're going to use multiple times. It's not something you would just use once. So that's where you have to figure out the trade-offs. Is it worth it to turn this into a gem, or do I just ask Gemini to do it without going through that bother? So you can have Gemini create the instructions for you. I'll share these slides with you, and then you can try this out yourself. So the other thing we talked about, I had mentioned that it's a reason you'd create a gem is because it's a prompt you use quite often. It's also that you want the output to look in a particular format, or you want it to be interactive where it's asking you questions and prompting you. The other reason is if you have knowledge that you wanted to draw on. So for example, if you're a student, you could upload a syllabus for a course, and then you would create a gem for that course, upload assignment information, things like that, and then you could use the gem to ask questions, and it would consult, or it would look at the syllabus and whatever you put out for assignment information to answer your questions. One use that we've used it for here at DFI is that we have a team of us that responds to tickets. You know how you can open a service desk ticket? Well, some of those come over to us at DFI, or you can open up a DFI ticket and we will answer those questions. But through the years, there's a lot of times that the questions are the same thing and the answer is always the same. So we have some standard text that we respond. And also on the other end of the spectrum, there were questions we don't get that often, and we need to be reminded about, like, how do we answer this? How do we solve this problem? So we actually have, and we've been using for a long time, a 25-page Google Doc with all of these commonly asked questions or uncommonly asked questions, what we need to do as staff members, and then what we give for information to the people in the ticket. So what we did was we created a gem. I'm not going to say this. The dispatch team AI assistant. So with this, we can type in a question that we get from in the ticket. So we have a faculty member wants a TA added to their course. So click here. Now it's consulting that FAQ Google Doc, and it comes back because we specified this is the format that we want. We want, what should we respond to the user? So we copy and paste this piece in the ticket. And then what do we need to do? We're reassigning the ticket to the service desk for them to add the CATA. And this is actually not correct. So this is the thing I'm going to, in a couple slides, the caution. It's not always right. We're still using AI, so it's still going to occasionally give you incorrect information. So this is part of the reason why we just use this gem internally, because those of us who are responding to tickets, we know that that's not true. So we don't want it to be a chatbot that people are like anybody can use. We're being a bit of a filter here to make sure that the information is correct, because I think we've all had the experience of dealing with a company chatbot that is annoyingly wrong or doesn't really get your question. So we're still the intermediary there. So if I look at how we created that gem now, I want to share with you that. Let me go back here, explore gem, because let's see, dispatch team, I'm going to edit this. And so these are all of the instructions which I had Gemini help us write. And then you look at the very bottom here, there's a section called knowledge. And in here, I can add files. I can add files from my drive, or I can upload a file. So I've linked to our Google Doc that has all the FAQs on here. So that's what it's looking at to answer those questions. So you can have multiple resources here in the knowledge base for your custom GPT. All righty. So this is my caution, because you always need to check the gem response, just like any AI tool. They can be wrong. So it's an assistant, but it's an imperfect assistant. So you need to have some knowledge and understanding of what you're asking the gem to do. Also, do not enter personally identifiable information. Even with the TC Gemini, if you're using the TC Gemini, even though it's not going back into the model, don't put your medical records in there, or research participant names, that sort of thing. Because even though it's covered under our contract and they're not sharing it with third parties, it could always, they can always be hacked. We all know that we get alerts, emails, or whatever telling us that whatever Bank of America or whatever has been hacked. So change your password. So just to be on the safe side, don't enter any personally identifiable information. And then this is like, I'm always running out of time. And then if you want to share a gem, you can do that. So if I go to explore gems, so this dispatch team AI assistant, the other people on the dispatch team are using it. So I needed to share it. So I click on the share icon, and then I can, these are the people that have access. You can add, it's similar to the way you share a Google Doc or a Google Sheet. So that's nice that it's kind of the same as what you might have seen before. And thanks everybody for attending, and feel free to contact us, open up a ticket if you have any questions.